What happens when the world's largest economy slaps tariffs on its biggest trading partners? President Trump's trade war was more than just a headline. It was a seismic shift in global economics. But were these tariffs a masterstroke to fix a broken system, or did they just spark retaliation and uncertainty? Let's unpack the real impact of Trump's tariffs and whether they truly leveled the playing field or just redrew the lines. Trump's tariffs targeted countries like China, Canada, Mexico, and the EU. The goal? To protect American industries and force fairer trade deals. But the global response was swift. Retaliatory tariffs hit U.S. exports, from Harley-Davidsons to soybeans. Suddenly, American farmers and manufacturers were caught in the crossfire. Was this economic nationalism or economic self-sabotage? The answer depends on who you ask and what industry you're in. Steel and aluminum were among the first targets. Trump imposed a 25% tariff on steel and 10% on aluminum imports, citing national security. The idea was to revive domestic production, but critics argued it raised costs for U.S. manufacturers and strained alliances. Did it help the Rust Belt or just make cars and beer cans more expensive? The results were mixed, and the debate still rages. China was the main target. Trump accused Beijing of intellectual property theft, forced tech transfers, and massive trade imbalances. The U.S. hit $360 billion worth of Chinese goods with tariffs. China responded in kind. The result? A tit-for-tat trade war that rattled markets and disrupted supply chains. But did it bring China to the negotiating table? Or just deepen the divide between the two superpowers? The U.S. trade deficit was a key justification. Trump argued that America was losing billions due to unfair trade deals. But economists pointed out that trade deficits aren't inherently bad. They reflect investment flows and consumer demand. Tariffs didn't eliminate the deficit. In some cases, it grew. So was the deficit a real problem? Or just a political talking point used to justify protectionism? American farmers were hit hard. China's retaliatory tariffs targeted U.S. agriculture, especially soybeans. Exports plummeted and prices dropped. The Trump administration responded with billions in subsidies to offset the damage, but many farmers felt caught in a political game they didn't ask to play. Was this a necessary sacrifice for long-term gain, or a costly miscalculation that hurt rural America? Manufacturers faced rising costs. Tariffs on imported materials like steel and aluminum made production more expensive. Companies like Harley-Davidson and General Motors warned of job cuts and price hikes. Some even moved production overseas to avoid tariffs. Ironically, a policy meant to boost American industry sometimes pushed it away. Was this the unintended consequence of a well-meaning strategy? Consumers paid more. Tariffs are essentially taxes on imports, and businesses often pass those costs to customers. From washing machines to electronics, prices rose. Inflation ticked up. For everyday Americans, the trade war wasn't just a news story. It hit their wallets. So while the rhetoric was about punishing foreign countries, the pain was often felt at home. The World Trade Organization, WTO, was sidelined. Trump preferred bilateral deals over multilateral institutions. He criticized the WTO for being ineffective and biased against the U.S., but passing global rules raised concerns about chaos in the trade system. Without a referee, could trade disputes spiral out of control? Or was this a necessary shakeup to force reform? Some countries caved. Mexico and Canada renegotiated NAFTA into the USMCA. With terms more favorable to the U.S., South Korea agreed to limit steel exports. Japan entered trade talks. In these cases, Trump's hardball tactics seemed to work. But were these wins worth the global instability they caused? And did they set a precedent for future negotiations or just alienate allies?